Are you a student, a copper, an applicant seeking to progress? This session is for you. Good morning and welcome to Army Diaconia. My name is Mandy Modi, and on Army Diaconia, we learn, unlearn, and relearn. We shall continue on our series, Acquiring and Sustaining a Job. In our last episode, we explored some interview questions and how to respond to them. Today, we shall delve into some more questions and see how best we can approach these questions in our interviews. Our first question for today: how do you explain your employment gap? Most people get nervous at this question, not knowing how a gap can be perceived, even when there's a good explanation for it. But note, you've been invited already, so the gap hasn't ruled you out. Feel free to talk about it. Put the situation in the best light possible. Do not lie, because a lie can come back to haunt you. Be honest and tell the truth. If your job ended due to retrenchment, due to a merger, due to a project closure, or even when you get fired, feel free to talk about it without shame and without panic. If you panic, the interviewer or the recruiter will pick on it and hammer you with more questions. Be calm in your response. The calmer you are, the calmer the recruiter will be with you. Share the good that come out of that time. Whether you step aside to be with family or you were let off for whatever reason, you certainly had learned or acquired other skills over that time. Feel free to share with your interview panel. And at the end of the day, everything will just be okay. Question 2 is similar to the first one. Why do you want to leave your current job? Most of the times our answers are around for career progression, for greener pasture, I want to grow, I want to learn more, which are very correct. But I feel there's a better way to approach it. Now, when you are asked this question in an interview, why do you want to leave your current job? It is a test to know whether you're running away from something or running towards something. Be positive and resist the temptation of putting your current organization or your boss in a bad light. Just focus and emphasize on what you want, why you want to take on this new role, and relate your answer to career progression, linking it to the current role you're sitting for. So for question 3, tell me about a time where you failed or make a mistake. In an interview, it's tricky and actually very difficult to tell your employer, someone who is interviewing you, someone you want to impress, that you failed or made a mistake. So I would like, my idea would be to tell a compelling story. You know, when you're answering any past experience question, whether tell me about the time you worked in a team, tell me about the time you demonstrated leadership, tell me about the time you acted as a leader, something like that. Everything that has to do with past experience. I would like to tell a compelling story. This is because as humans, we are naturally drawn to listening to good stories. So just like in any good movie, when you tell a good story, you get you to increase the employer's or the recruiter's interest in you. And there's an acronym that usually helps me, SAR, SAR. S stands for situation, A for action steps, and R for the result. So your story should follow this pattern. In not so much of the details, explain or describe the situation. What are the initial events that happened? What are your experiences? What are the challenges that you came across? Okay. Then the next step is to describe the action points, the steps you took, the actions you took, the milestones you passed through, you achieved and, succeeded in that event. Even when there are challenges involved, remember the question is actually asking you about the time you feel. Now, describing your milestones and sharing your challenges gives you an advantage and makes it look like you actually overcame, you achieved, regardless of the challenges. And lastly, describe the results, the impact. So telling your compelling story in this pattern will capture the interviewer's interest and increase their or heighten their interest in you. The next question, do you have any question for me, or do you have any question for us? This is a question that most often comes out in our interviews. And essentially, respond with a yes and be ready to ask a few questions. This is because the question is testing to know if you are engaging, if you are intelligent, or if you are interested. You cannot tell a recruiter, no, I don't have a question at the end of an interview. It means you are saying, I'm not interested. Okay? So what kind of questions should you ask? First, questions that show that you are paying attention. Try to jot down a few notes or make a mental note at the course of the interview. And then look back to anything you want to dive further into. So you can ask them questions around the job, you can ask questions about the team, you can ask questions about the challenges that lies ahead. Okay, and then you can also ask them questions that genuinely show that you are excited. Certainly you demonstrated that you qualify for the job. You may want to clinch this by showing that you have passion for their brand, for their company, for the industry. So you want to ask them questions about their favorite brand or the brand you think is favorite to you, or see if or how they respond to industry trend. Lastly, you may want to ask them questions that get them talking about themselves. This is very important, and I'm saying this with emphasis. People love talking about themselves. I love talking about myself. And people are usually appreciative of others when they notice and pick interest in the interesting things they do or the things that are happening around them. Okay, so remember we talked about researching for who your panelists will be when preparing for your interview in the first episode. So if you did not watch that video, go watch it. It will be helpful. It's good you know who your panelists are and be able to know what kind of questions to ask them. You can ask them, be careful not to go personal. Ask them questions that get them talking about their job, their career, and they will pick more interest. You know, people would like to discuss themselves. And remember, this is an interview. Recruiters will like who they want. I mean, who they like. They will recruit who they like. And then someone who has genuinely shown that he is interested in the role. Another question we want to explore. What is your greatest weakness? What is your greatest weakness? Sometimes we say hunger is our greatest weakness. Sometimes we say thinking that we can do almost everything in a day that shows that you are super strong and all that. Well, when I come across this question, a few things came to mind. To succeed in any industry, you must be humble. So you have to be careful of the terminologies you use. Do not use phrases that show you coming up as being perfect. Don't come up as being too strong. Okay, don't be overconfident. So use terminologies that show or demonstrate your humility. Do not pick up weaknesses that put you at a disadvantage or that can disqualify you. Remember, you're applying for instance, you're applying for a project manager position and you're asked to tell what your weakness are. You cannot say your weakness is creative thinking or your weakness is efficient communication. That automatically disqualifies you because it's captured in your job requirements that you need that skill. Okay, So you can pick up a weakness that is not close to anything as required in the job description. Say a weakness around maybe painting, arts, or something like that. Okay, just so that you don't shoot yourself in the leg. And my last tip on this question would be to describe your fix it strategy. If you're the type of person that like jotting notes, like keeping track of events and all of that, you can choose to say that maybe one of your weaknesses is writing so much or keeping tab with events, just noting everywhere you go. You're noting on your phone, you have a notepad, you write and all of those things. Sometimes it makes it look so busy, but yes, that's a strength and it gives you a booster. If you find this episode interesting or helpful, like it, share it, invite your friends to follow our page. Click on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when any of our videos are up. Until I see you in the next video, my name still remains Mandy Odi. Bye for now.